Give me 40 minutes of your time and I'll show you the exact step-by-step process that coaches, consultants, and agency owners can start adding $20,000 a month consistently into their business. And I can say this because in the last 45 days, I've been able to generate $54,000 in revenue in my business. And I've helped multiple clients hit $10, $20, and even $30,000 plus months. I've worked with over 190 online service providers in the space. And this, from what I've seen, working with people that are spending upwards of thousands and thousands of dollars every single day in ad spend, and people spending just a few bucks every day in ad spend, and people spending nothing at all. I've seen what works and what doesn't, and there's certain specific things that work very, very well in this space that don't work in other spaces and work very well in other spaces that you should not be using in your coaching or consulting business. If you can deeply understand who the hell it is you're speaking to and what you're building to them, you can understand yourself on a deeper layer, you can see things, see reality clearer for what it is, and know what the reality of the business is, know what you're trying to shoot for and what you're trying to avoid. You make decisions so much easier and business just becomes fun. Because one of the biggest problems I see time and time again is business owners mistake movement for progress. They're busy sending 100 DMs every single day. They're busy spending all this money on ads and creating YouTube videos and doing all the things, but they're not actually progressing the business forward. And what happens here is when you don't have clarity on what the hell it is you're doing, you're making all this movement spinning your wheels, but you get to a point where you have uncertainty in yourself, the business model, and if this actually works. Why? Well, it makes sense. You haven't got the results you feel like you were due in this time. And what happens here, the uncertainty, you can't disassociate the difference between the business and the human being you. So you start to doubt yourself. The uncertainty creeps into every area of life. You get frustrated with everything. You start looking at other people doing well in the space and you think they're a scam, they're lying, or whatever that is, right? I've been there. I've seen it happen time and time again. This stuff works, and it works really, really well. So we're going to walk through that right now. Let's go. So there's really going to be 3 key pillars for you looking to scale an online service-based business, whether that's a B2B offer or a B2C. The 3 core pillars are going to be, now, a lot of people complicate this and make it really fancy, but it never needs to be that. So it's going to be offer. You're going to have to ignore my lack of handwriting skills. It's going to be offer creation. It's going to be leads, lead flow, lead generation, and sales, which is, I kind of put in one. And then there's going to be a scale and optimize on the third. So what we're going to do is start with offer creation right at the top. Your offer, right? And everyone's been reading the books, the big purple book that tells you you need to make the most insane, craziest, easy to say yes to offer, but a lot of times you need to make sure you can deliver on it as well. It's very important that you understand what the market perceives as their problem, not their actual problem. And this is actually something a lot of people get mixed up in, because you might know your craft, your market, your area so well that you understand the root cause of the problem. But we're going to do perceived problem and then actual problem. So the actual problem is the root cause of why someone does something. For example, if you're speaking to a fitness offer, the actual problem might be a lack of accountability on themselves, the people around them. But someone who has a lack of accountability and can never see through on their goals, how that's going to manifest and how that's going to show itself in their life is going to be, I can never finish what I start. I've tried everything, nothing works for me. Like, when you want to think about a perceived problem, you want to think in the terms of how do they vocalize this to friends and family? Because usually that's going to be the language they use. And this will also come down to your market sophistication. If you're speaking to someone who is looking to take their business from $30,000 to $50,000 or $30,000 to $100,000 a month, there's going to be very different things you speak to. If you're running an ads agency, it's going to be very different to the things you speak to someone who's just starting an Instagram page, right? So the sophistication level of the market, you need to match your language and messaging to it. If you start to speak in all this rhetoric and CPL and CPM and CPC, which are all business terms to track KPIs in a business, you're going to lose someone. and they're going to miss out on that. So you need to get really clear on the perceived problem and the actual problem. An example for business would be the actual problem would be that they have no cash flow or they have no leads. But their perceived problem will be like, my content doesn't even get any engagement. Like, no one writes back to my messages. I spend a bunch of money on ads, Facebook ads don't work. But their actual problem is like they just don't have any leads. And there's going to be certain people at certain stages that speak to this differently and identify to this differently. So the first issue with an offer is going to be the understanding the market sophistication and also understanding the problem, the language, and what you speak to in that. The next part in building a really high-performing offer is going to be how you build the pillars into the offer. Now, let's just keep it simple. 3 pillars is usually what you want to create. Now, these 3 pillars should do one thing and one thing only. So you want to think in the terms of when you're building your offer, you're speaking to one market, you're speaking to one problem, which leads you to your one offer. I forgot how to spell offer for a moment. This makes it very streamlined and easy for you to dial in all of your content, all of your sales calls, all of your nurture sequences, and all of your campaigns to generate leads, because you're consistently speaking to the same thing. Now, when you build your offer, its whole purpose is to take someone from their current state to their desired situation along these 3 things. And when I say these things, these are your pillars, these 3 here. So when you explain them, it also needs to be in a sequential order, because they want to go from their current state to their desired situation. And if I'm speaking about, let's just use business as an example. Like, it's very, very important as an online business owner that you are very dialed on your messaging, your market, your offer, your language, how you're speaking to people, and what you're taking them through. If we start with optimizing your sales, but you don't have a proof of concept, meaning you haven't made sales in the space before, everything's backwards, because there's nothing to optimize, there's nothing to improve on. Just like if you're going to help someone, let's use fitness as an example. Someone's just looking to lose weight. Well, if you start talking about like sunlight exposure and meditation and balancing your nervous system, like, you can do all these things. You can be busy doing 100 different things, but none of them actually move the scale on what you're trying to do. Whereas if you were just to focus on someone of like food intake, daily exercise, and weight training, you're going to get these results a lot quicker. The other 1% you do later on are things to kind of optimize and refine the process. Just like in business, you're not going to work with someone in stage 1 of hiring and outsourcing if they're under an X amount per month. Like, it just wouldn't make sense. If it makes sense to the client, there's a much higher chance they're going to buy it. Because if you're talking through, first of all, we're going to set all this up, and in their head that they might not even be saying it, or they might not even be conscious of it, but they're like, something about this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to do that before that. So this doesn't sound like the program for me. Then they might just say like, this program doesn't sound like it's a fit for me. But if they can't articulate why, that then becomes your problem, because A, they're not going to buy it and they're not going to spend money with you. But B as well, how do you get market feedback from someone who doesn't know why they don't want to buy it? So it needs to be very, very clear that, and as you explain it for them, it needs to be very transparent in this is the solution for what they need. So when you build these 3 pillars, what I do with clients is creating 3 pillars for your program. Now, in these 3 pillars, what you want to create is a unique mechanism, 1, maybe 2. For me, complete transparency, my first one is a hybrid offer. And then my second one is the CTS lead engine. Right? And these can't just be random, like unicorn, rainbow, rocket, 3000. Like, these need to make sense. Because coming into a business, I work with people that have a basic understanding of it, so they know they need to create an offer. So there's uniqueness in that mechanism of a hybrid offer. And then also a lead engine. Well, we always need leads. And this is how I'm solving the problem sequentially. So the first problem is who and what do I sell? Right? So that's the problem here. We're solving that by helping build a hybrid offer for you that has 3 pillars. It has unique mechanisms. So when people hear these unique mechanisms, they see it as an actual tangible thing that sets you apart from everyone else in the space. So if you're telling everyone, when you come into my program, we're looking to lose weight. Well, what we do is we track your macros, and we look at the amount of weights you're moving every single week, and we just adjust from there. You're like, yeah, cool, but like everyone does that. Whereas if you have like the progression method, and what's the progression method? Well, what it is, it's a unique way where we actually track everything you do. We consolidate that and tailor it to your lifestyle so you can continue doing all the activities you love to do. And then you can also keep eating the food you enjoy and get your results. Sound good? So just off the cuff there, what I've done there is be able to combine a couple other point I want to speak to. So it's a unique point of difference in the market in what you do. It's a mechanism. But what you start to speak to in this mechanism is you want to start speaking to the desired state of where that person wants to be. So if they want to get the goal through doing all the things they enjoy doing and keep eating all the food they enjoy eating, now they're like, oh, that is the thing for me. Whereas a lot of people will speak to, and I see this in the coaching space, in the personal training, like a lot of service-based businesses will start to break down all the features. We get 16 calls over the 16 weeks, and we have 52 videos, and there's 18 hours of video footage, and it's $8,000. And people will be like, why would I pay $8,000 for a few videos? Like that, I can watch them on YouTube, right? And this is when you create an offer. You need to have the pillars, but the pillars, as you explain them, need to paint the picture of the end goal for that person. Because what happens here is you start getting people into a cost-based thinking. If you're just saying 16 calls and say it's $1,600, in their head, they're like, well, that costs me $100 every time I jump on a call. If you start speaking to, and then in 10 weeks, when we're going to drop 10 kilos, you're going to feel confident at the shirt. You're going to feel confident at the beach with your shirt off. Like, how would that feel? Now, all of a sudden, the price of feeling confident in that situation seems a lot less. And when you can get someone into outcome-based thinking instead of cost-based thinking, you'll be able to just charge more. Because if you're confident you can get that result and you're certain you can take someone there and you can paint the picture of what that looks like, it makes more sense to them. So when you create your offer, when these pillars are so important in creating a decision. So the decision will be made up from a couple of things. Now, sales calls, we could go into a lot of depth with this, but a lot of this is done in the discovery, which is the first 70%, 80% of the call. But when it comes down to a decision, it's going to be made from 2 different places. There's going to be a logical and there's going to be an emotional. Now, if you explain your offer and it's like it ticks all the boxes of everything they feel like they need at certain stages and it's sequential along the way, you're ticking the box of the logical decision maker. If you're speaking to how they're going to feel and what the outcome is going to be and how life is going to look different, you're speaking to the desired situation was now emotional. And if you start speaking to where they're currently stuck and how that pain is holding them back or how that affects other areas of life, you're speaking into the emotional side. A good closer or someone who's good at sales is able to speak to both throughout the call and then also take all the information they've taken on that call, put it into the pillars, because pillars, like sales scripts and pillars aren't scripts, they're frameworks. So it's a framework of problems that your offer solves. And if your content, your marketing, everything is on point, you're going to be attracting people specifically who are a good suit for you. So a good offer is built up these 3 pillars that solve logically all the problems and emotionally cause triggers inside someone to take action, to create movement, to create some kind of commitment there and then. And then the logical, and what can happen here is if you are too in the emotional, you're going to get someone who's going to commit on the call, they're going to pay the money, they're going to do the thing. And then 48 hours is going to go past, 24 hours, they're going to want a refund or they're going to change their mind. If you can really nail the logical and the emotional, then you're going to get someone committed in and for the whole length of the program, or at least the first part of it, so they can start to see results and then really double down on what they're doing because they can see, oh, this is the thing for me. So we went off at a bit of more of a sales tangent on that one, but they're the 3 things you really need to make sure you're covering when you're in an offer, when you're building out your offer. And one of the best ways to create an offer is you want to create a form of proximity and people pay for that. Now, if you're following me and you understand my thesis, I'm a big one for solopreneur businesses. Like pretty much all of my clients, it's just them, they're the coach, they're the mentor, the facilitator, and they might have a team, two at most. A lot of them just have a virtual assistant or are looking to onboard one. Why? Because I guess truly value freedom in my life and my business. I don't want to be managing 18 people or 6 people and taking care of their emotional state and making sure they're performing and checking up on them and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is why I've built it the way I have. So most of the time you will get to a stage, well, let's just continue using fitness as an example because it's a great analogy and everyone really understands it. So when you build out your offer, first of all, you're going to start with a one-on-one. So once you have a one-on-one, and like why we always start with one-on-one is you want to make sure you can deliver on the thing you say you do. If you jump into a group container and you jump on group calls or you've got a group chats or communities and you're not delivering on that, there's going to be an issue, right? So when you take the one-to-one, you want to take people through the whole customer journey, the experience. And then when you understand all the common pitfalls, the problems, the bottlenecks, maybe I do need to make more content or do more of this or less of that, then you can really refine it and sharpen it. Then we can move into a group container. Now, in a group container, there isn't any hard rule on how you build this, right? Like I speak to some people, I've done group programs before where I'll have like 8-9 people. We've been on a call once a week. It's an 8-week program. Other ways you can do it is throw in some one-on-one calls as well. There can be communities on like WhatsApp, school, these different ways. But when you get to group, that's when you start to really leverage your time because you should have built a skill set by now and also assets inside of your business to be able to start scaling. What happens here is you can bring people in at a lower price point in the group. And then once they see and they start to get results, they'll see the proximity is so important. So if you can open up that channel to a group and then to a one-on-one, people will pay that because they just want like more accountability, or mainly they just want to accelerate their results and they want to move faster. So that's a very high level of how you can build an offer and create proximity in that. And I won't go into all the depth and details at all because there's so many different ways to do it. But for a personal trainer, right, you could have like one group call every 2 weeks. And on that, there's a certain topic or subject you're speaking or you're teaching on. Like you could be teaching on the luteal phase in women's cycles. You could be teaching on testosterone for men. Like there's so many different things you could speak on. And all of a sudden you run a masterclass every 2 weeks. Side note, you can sell tickets to this to people outside of your community and then bring them in at profit. And then you also open up a bit of a floor for a Q&A. So you're making content internally for your community, your group, but you're kind of double dipping on this and then using that to make money outside of the group and also bring people into your world. You'll find if you always run free groups, free seminars, free this and that, you attract a certain type of buyer and they normally just want to jump in, look around a bunch and not purchase. But if you find someone who's going to come in, actually pull their money out, whether it's $7, $50, $100, you'll have a much more higher intent buyer. So once you have your offer dialed down, and first of all, you want to get a proof of concept. So how do we do that? Well, we need leads. We need someone to sell to. We've got something to sell. Now we want something to sell. So here, the next part of this is going to be lead gen, right? And what I'm going to do in a moment is walk you through exactly my system, how I do this, and show you how pillars can stack and how you can build unique mechanisms in what you do. So lead gen, there are so many different ways to do it. And one of the most common problems in the space is someone will watch one YouTube video or watch someone's content and believe that is the Bible, that's the Holy Grail to do something. Many things work, like emails work, paid ads work, organic works, cold outbound works for most industries. You need to find what aligns with you. Because what's going to happen is you're going to come into the business ready to go, let's build this thing, and you're going to have 2 things you can use. You're going to have time and you're going to have money. These are the 2 levers you can pull. That's it. If you have no money, you can't go into a program that requires you to spend money on ads to generate leads. It just doesn't work. And if you don't have any time, you can't go into a program that expects you to create content all the time yourself, do cold outbound, do like 100 DMs a day or whatever the thing is. So you need to, first of all, be clear on what levers, resources can you pull on to be able to get your result. And it's very important that if you are speaking to someone about jumping into a program or something like that, you need to ask this question. For me, I actually teach people both. Like we can pull on any lever. But obviously the better one to pull on is going to be money. Like we want people coming to us, they have higher intent, and it's just a lot more efficient. But if you don't have money, there are ways to leverage your time to be able to do this as well. So one thing I would say, if you are in this bracket time, first of all, think like who exists in your world, your networks, your communities, your markets that might know someone or might be someone that you want to work with. Even if you've been in business for a while. I've done this with clients, they've been in business for a few years, and like, well, how about we just make a list of 100 people that you are friends or friends of friends of, or they might be someone who'd be interested, or that they know a friend, or they have a community, or they have a club or something, right? They got access to networks. And we just send them a basic message like, hey, name, I've got really big goals to build my business this year, and I'm actually looking for 30 women who want to drop 8 kilos in the next 8 weeks for summer. So they can feel confident at the beach in a bikini. Do you know anyone that could be interested in this? Now, you can ask that directly to someone you feel like you want to work with. And it's an indirect way. It takes away this like sleazy ickiness of like, hey, do you want to buy my shit? Right? So a lot of people are going to skip this part, and maybe 2% of people will do this. But when people do this part and actually implement it and get over the ego and the fact that like, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm being weird, you'll send off the 100 messages. From the 100, maybe you get 20, 30, 40 replies at best. From those 40, if you can get 4 or 5 calls and you close 2 clients, all of a sudden we've just made money appear, right? And then once you've got money, you can leverage that. So I call it the hottest 100. And a lot of clients, depending where they're at, will bring them in on this if they've got time to leverage. Now, if you're more advanced and you've got money to leverage, or you just have money to leverage, we can start to work down a path, which I call the CTS lead engine, right? Lead, got to put a little TM there, make it legit, make sure it's mine. That's meant to be a TM. I've completely ruined that now. One of the things in the online world is trust is an all-time low, right? I am seeing kids that look like they're 11 years old making claims online about, they DM me all the time, like, I can take your business $50K a month, I can take your business to blah, blah, blah. Videos, and it looks like they're all taken in the bedroom of your mum's house. Let's call it what it is. Then you've got the other guys on the other end of the scale that are, and it's just like, you've got this like complete opposite ends of the scale where you've got these people that live this like amazing, lavish, luxury lifestyles, yet their whole income of what they're speaking to is fabricated and false, and it lives under the illusion that you think this is real. And it's like, I'm amazed that we need to continually have this conversation in 2025, but like a lot of social media isn't real. And it's the thing that really grinds my gears in the spaces, because I see people I'm speaking to and they go work with a client and have this massive promise of they're going to do all these things, and then 3-4 months in, it hasn't gone anywhere. And it's easy to create a really good offer. It's easy to say, like, I can guarantee you 100 leads in the next 60 days. Otherwise, I'll pay you $500 if it doesn't happen. But how many people actually went through that and actually got their money back and read the contract and the fine print of getting you caught up? Anyway, let's not get off the path. So what happens here is when you can leverage money, one of the best ways to do it is through boosted posts on Instagram. Why? Because they learn really, really fast. We can leverage low amounts of money, like $5 US a day is where you can start at, and you can scale this very, very high. What's going to happen here is you can also track data, and it's very, very easy to track and see what's working and what's not. If you're setting up through an ad campaign, it can be much more expensive, and there's actually a few things that meta ads don't show you that if you run a boosted post in the app, makes it much easier. Why I prefer this? A, it'll build your audience. So one of the biggest things in business is you don't want to just generate leads to come to a sales call and close. You want to be building an audience to be able to nurture them over a long period of time. So what the C stands for this is really like certainty. So you want to build certainty in yourself with a dialed offer in the first pillar, and then you want to build certainty in your audience. And how do you do this? Lots of mini bits of exposure over a long period of time will build belief and trust in you as the person who can deliver on this. And the T then stands for trust in traffic. So it's like once you build this, like, and boosted posts do this really well in like really nurturing your audience and growing it bigger and bigger. And as long as you consistently are putting content out there, you're going to build trust with these people, and they're going to know you, they're going to like you. And like I show all my clients how to do this. So we're building trust in traffic from here. Then it comes down to a sales. side of things. So from here, how good are you at nurturing these people? How good are you having conversations with these people? How good are you at moving them forward on the sale and pivoting when they say like they feel like I've already got a coach or I've already got this thought. What kind of questions are you answering to get over that? Because just recently, like I've signed up someone who was in a program, and if I just took the response of like, hey, I'm in a program, I'm all good, I'd be like, oh, you're in a program, good, cross her off the list. When I could see like through further conversation, they weren't getting the results they want. So it's very, very important that when you are generating leads, I see time and time again, people have this weird expectation where if you run ads, anyone that lands on your page is just going to hand you their credit card information. And there's going to be nothing you need to do because you've spent the money and now they're here. Well, no. What's going to happen here is that this is when your skills come into play. Like how good are you at nurturing? How good are your sales skills? Like all these things compound over time. And we're going to go that into the next pillar. So when we install the CTS engine we do with clients, there's a certain framework and system we install to make sure there's certain KPIs and things we need to be hitting to make sure they're effective and doing what they're doing. There's a few different ways to track this. We've got a really effective way of doing this. There's also an additional add-on where there's an AI software that I can install into people's businesses, and it can essentially automate your socials in the way of bringing followers, your engagement, and all these things. Won't go into it too much now. We're fine-tuning it at the moment. We'll be releasing it soon. So once you combine these two things, it's like having you sitting there on your phone for 8 hours a day, going through just engaging with everyone that is your ideal market. And then you're also having people come in through these ads that you consistently nurture and then get onto calls. This then allows you to not have to post 3 times a day, not to send 100 cold DMs, not to put up 14 stories a day. Like you don't need to do this as much. These things will help and they will help conversions. But the main thing you need to be doing is how many conversations are you having directly with the person? How many offers are you making? Like how many times are you offering someone to get on a call or offering help or offering them a free lead magnet or something you've built? And how many sales calls are you having from that? These are the key metrics you need to be doing, because the more conversations you have, the more offers you're going to make, the more offers you make, the more sales you're going to make. It is an oversimplified way of explaining how this business works. Coming back, quick recap. You only have time or money. These are the 2 levers you can pull on in business. You need to choose which one you can use and which one will be best for you. And the final part of this. So what happens here is if you were to envision yourself as a video game character, right? And if you're at level 1 and a level 1 player who puts in 100 hours of work is probably going to have the equivalent of 100 say points of output, right? If you're a level 2 player and you put in 100 hours, you're probably going to have about a 200 output. This is an oversimplified way to explain business skills to you. So follow along. So what's going to happen is the better you are at business, the more you can leverage your time. This is why we look at people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, all the like really big players in whatever space it is. Hormozy, the reason they're able to operate and generate hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue is because their skill set is so good that they're able to leverage their time and then leverage everyone else's time. If you're not good at what you do, there is no shortcut, quick fix, magic pill I can give you to make you amazing at sales, to make you amazing at content, to make you an amazing coach. Like it doesn't exist. And sometimes you might be sold this, but the truth is, if you go to the gym and you train one time and you do bench press and squats, you're all shaky in that, you're not going to be very good. You're not going to be very strong either. So you can't move much weight. But over time, what's going to happen is you're going to get so much stronger that, moving that 10 kilos, now I can move 100 kilos in just 1 rep instead of taking 10 reps to move 10 kilos 10 times. So what we want to do along this path is build a complete ecosystem where it's a business development intensive for you. And we're optimizing and refining in every part. So if we take you from a level 1 to a level 10, all of a sudden that 10 hours is the same output as 100. And some of you might experience this before, like the first ever time you go to write an Instagram post or make a piece of content. I know the first time I ever edited a video, I went through YouTube tutorials and I was doing this when I used to be into videography. And it probably took me 8 hours to do a 30-second video. And then after I'd done 10, 20, 30 videos, I could do the same video in like 30, 40 minutes. So what happens here, it compounds. And a lot of people will come into the game, maybe not see results early on, and they'll put it aside or they'll go back to some other thing. But the reality is, like, you're just not good enough yet. Like, someone recently asked me, like, if you're so good as a business coach, why don't you just earn like $100,000 a month? And it stumped me for a moment, but it was like, the honest answer is like, I'm just not good enough to do that yet, right? Like, because the reality is, if I was good enough and I had the skill sets and the beliefs and I was the human that was capable of doing that, I just would be doing that. So it's becomes a much easier conversation that if you just accept right now you're just not good enough, that's okay. Because who you are now and who you are in the future is completely dependent on the actions and intentions you have when you take this two things, right? I started out going to the gym at 54 kilo or something, 52 kilo, and now I'm 75 kilo. So if I was just living under the belief like, oh, I'm just a skinny kid, this is how I am, I wouldn't have been able to put all this size on. So the same thing comes to business. Like, business is a skill set. You're developing a skill set and getting better, and then you're able to leverage your time and increasing the percentages at that. So if you are able to disassociate yourself from the ego and not think the business is you and the business is something separate from you, this journey will be so much easier for you. Because people come into this game and they have a bad month and they think they're just a bad person and they've done something wrong in their life and they're a complete failure. It's not true. It's an external skill set from you. It's not you yourself. The quicker this can land, the easier it makes it for you to look at things objectively and not look at it from an emotional, subjective standpoint. Like, I am not good at business because of this month. It's like, no, this month I just didn't do X, Y, and Z well enough, so next month I need to improve on it. It just makes conversations with yourself, team, whatever that is, so much easier as you go. When you can understand when you're coming into business, you're not doing a 16-week, let's get the abs out for summer program. Yeah, you can get in really good shape in a fitness program in 16 weeks, but then what? Like, what happens then? What is the next step, or where is the thing you next want to get to? Because it's easy to just grind it out for 16 weeks, business, fitness, or whatever, and get some form of result. But where's the maintenance going forward? So this is something I work with clients a lot. Like, we want to build a business around the human, not force the business onto the human. Because it's very, very important that you're enjoying what the hell it is you're doing without being forced to do something you just really don't want to do. And at times there's going to be things that we just, yeah, of course, we don't want to do them. But they're going to be a necessity. And as long as the ethos and the fundamentals of the values of what you believe in are aligned with your business, this is very much going to help that as well. I've gone out of camera a little bit here. So I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of exactly how I do this inside of the hybrid method. First of all, what we need to do is identify who the hell you are, your life map, your identity, your goals. What are these things for you? Do you want to come into the business and build a $100,000 a month business and run it into the ground in 80-hour weeks? Cool, let's go. I can show you the path. If you want to come in and you want to build a $10,000 or $20,000 a month business and only work 10, 15 hours a day, I can also show you the path. So this is what I mean. Like, intention is everything. You've probably had those gym sessions before when you walk in and you're like, oh, tonight's the night. Like, for me, DMX, Eminem are like my go-to tracks in the gym. And you just know, like, I'm not checking my phone. I'm like 45 seconds between sets. I'm taking only that. I'm not stretching it. You know, you absolutely crush a workout. Just like if, say, you're going to apologize to a friend or someone's just gone through something, the intention you have when you walk into that house is very, very different. So when we come into business, if we know our end goal, it's easier to build with the end in mind and work our way backwards. Because there's going to be a certain speed we need to move at if we want to start hitting different numbers. It's going to be different for everyone. So inside the hybrid offer, the first thing we're going to do, really dial in your messaging. So what we spoke about before is getting clearer messaging, your target market, current state, and their perceived problem, not their actual problem. From here, we get really, really clear on targeting people on a psychographic level, not a demographic level. And when you start targeting people on more a psychographic than a demographic level, you will have them put their hands up so much more, because when you speak to this, they'll feel like you genuinely understand where they're at and what they're going through. Demographics like, hey, I'm looking for 40-year-olds. A psychographic would be like, I'm looking for 5 men who feel like they're stuck at a crossroad in life and are sitting on the sidelines watching everyone else kick goals and they don't know what to do next. Compared to, I'm looking for 5 dads who are 40 years old who want to have more clarity in life or are stuck. So if you can really nail that, that's going to help so much more in just having people you genuinely want to work with reach out with you. From here, the result, desired situation. So what's the end goal? We build the offer around, remember, current state, desired situation. Then we want to go through the build and package. So this is when we really put together the hybrid offer. What I spoke about before, the offer, what does it look like? The packaging, the pillars, the phases, and the pricing. So some common pitfalls people go through is they try to build out many, many low ticket items, meaning like $50, $100, a couple $100, with the idea that they think this is easier to sell when actually it's harder to sell, because you don't want to be jumping on a 45-minute call to sell someone a $50 thing. And if you're only selling $50 products, you really want to be able to automate that. And you can't automate that without a large audience and authority in the space. If you can price things and understand how to price things in the marketplace, you'll be able to get people to a place where they will be spending an amount of money that could be a bit of a stretch for them, which is good because this then becomes a stretch investment. That means they're leaning in, they're ready, they're committed, let's go. If it's just free or it's too cheap, they won't have enough skin in the game to see it through. And then there's obviously the other side where if you charge way too high, it's going to be super hard to sell people. And then even if people do get results, they're going to feel like they overpaid and they're not going to come back and work with you. So there is a sweet spot in doing this. Delivery, customer journey. So what is the process we take them? How do we facilitate? Where do they find resources, templates? What do we actually need to build to create high value, low cost resources? So this is the delivery system. So what will happen is after you work with a few clients, you'll see there's consistent things that people need in their journey. And what you want to do is create as many low cost, high value assets and resources as you can. So what does that mean? A low cost means it's something you create one time. For example, high value means every single client is going to go through that and use that. So in a mindset program, right, like having a pre-recorded meditation to work through like grief, resentment, happiness, joy, love, like all these kind of things. If you were to create like 10 meditations on all these emotions that people want to work through, all of a sudden you have this amazing resource and library that people can always access throughout their day to day, and you don't have to be there for it. A high cost, high value item would be like a one-on-one mentoring call, because it's high value to the client, but it's also high cost to you, and you need to do that every single time. So have a think now, like if you're already working and facilitating with people, what do you have that clients use all the time, or what could you make that clients use all the time that would be a huge value to them, but you only need to make it once? So pre-recorded videos, trainings, templates, journals, trackers, like there's so many different things you can build, and everyone's going to have their own stuff in there. So that's essentially building the hybrid offer. You know, we want for my clients in the first 10 to 30 days so we can start moving into the CTS lead engine. From here, it's going to be a few of the things we spoke about before, and I'm just walking you through this. This is my 3 pillars: the hybrid offer, CTS lead engine, and the optimize and scale. So you can see how this plays out. So what happens here is a lot of the times you will come in and you want to start building leads, but you really need to build from the foundation up in this. Like if your content's really bad, it's just not going to convert to generating followers, generating engagement, and then most importantly, generating sales, building that depth with your audience. There's 2 different ways we can build this: width and depth. Width, getting lots of followers; depth, people that actually buy from you. So what I do is I actually bring in my own creative and editing team to edit content for you. This is the thing that really sets the CTS lead engine apart, is because you as a coach, you as a consultant, you as an agency owner shouldn't be spending time in CapCut and Premiere Pro and doing editing and trying to figure all that stuff out. It's not your skill set. So what we want to do is leverage who you are as a person in your skill sets so you can be generating more leads, closing more deals, and working with clients on a deeper capacity. We do this through market research and content research to hand deliver you high-performing content. You just need to sit down, record, and the editing team takes care of the rest. And then you need tracking. You need to know your numbers, your KPIs. So it's great to just be able to run ads and get them working, but you need to know when to make decisions and how to make decisions. So if we don't have tracking and KPIs set in place, we don't know how to make a decision. So last night I had a call with a client and we had an issue where some of the metrics, it was costing too much to get people to her profile. But if we look and zoom out as a business as a whole, the return on ads, or the ROI of the business, was 15x. So, okay, this front end is a little bit expensive, but on the back end, they're coming through, they're converting, they're good clients, and we're closing them. So if you don't know what levers to pull when, you can actually shoot yourself in the foot when you've got a working system, and you can actually go around in circles and never get to the solution because you keep moving the wrong things. So having the back end tracking installed and automations make this so much easier for follow-up, nurture, and everything. Like I said, one of the biggest deficits in the industry is trust. So if you can build long-form nurture sequences, resources, assets, here's a clue, this is one of them, people can consume hours and hours of your content. So by the time you do speak to them, they're already in. They're already convinced. They're already like bought in. Whereas if you just try to run an ad or one post and then they message you, it can be a longer sales cycle, or they can just never actually progress to signing up with you because they just don't know enough about you yet. From here, we're really building out your short-term nurture, your DM scripts, your booking systems, and your customer psychology. So there's an exact process, an exact form of type of questions. There's an exact process, an exact type of questions you need to ask clients at specific times to move them along this scale. If you don't know what these questions are, you will come across too forward, creepy, weird. But if you don't know how to progress the sale, you'll go into a place of being a friend. And what happens is a lot of people will like, oh, this person replies to me, that's really good. But there's a fine line when you set the frame of the conversation. The frame is like there's an authoritative frame you have. So when you go to a doctor, what is the frame of the doctor? He is the authority in that space. And how does he hold that authority? He asks questions, and he asks specific questions that take you down a certain path to get to a result so he can make a decision on what to do next and how to move forward and what to prescribe you as a solution. Very similar what we do in this. And you can nail this. You can take someone from potentially interested, cold lead, warm lead, all the way through to jumping on a call and closing them within 5-6 questions. But there's many nuances between that. But if you know what to ask, when to ask it, and how to ask it, you improve every dollar you spend in every part of business. So this isn't when you come into the business development. When you work with someone in this space, you might spend $1,000 a month on ads, but if you don't have the skills, you'll need to spend $5,000 a month to get the results of someone who has the skills who spends $1,000. This is when you really leverage your time. We move into sales. So sales, it's not icky. Don't get freaked out by it. I absolutely love this stuff, but when I first started, I felt like a used car salesman. Right, like I was in the men's mindset coaching space, and these guys are opening up their hearts and what they're going through, and it's like really deep shit. Like they really want to change and make like something bigger and better of their lives. And part of me was like, oh, but I'm like convincing them to do this. The big overcome for me was like, hold on, do you really believe in what you do? I was like, fuck yeah. Like what I taught back then was the exact thing that gave me the life I have right now and was the stepping stones to that. Well, awesome. It's selfish of you to not lean into the discomfort of having these conversations with people, knowing this is the actual pillar, this is the thing that can shift for them. There's certain ways we go through this and we can progress and we can bring you through that. So sales script, again, I think people get this wrong. It's not a, hello, how are you today? Like we're not following an exact script. We're not robots. You're humans at the end of the day, and the quicker you can get rid of a script, the better you're going to be at sales. A script is more of a framework. How do we ask questions? What do we do from here? If they say this, how do we take them here? And we're just helping them make a decision at the end of the day. Client discovery, which is within sales, objection handling, which I think people actually focus too much on objection handling. Sales are one and done in the first half of the call, in the discovery, deeply understanding them, seeing that you genuinely fucking care about them and you genuinely feel like you're a solution to their problem. This is why a lot of people can have resistance to getting on calls because they feel like they're going to jump on a weird, grabby salesman kind of vibe. So that's just not how you do it. Everyone I speak to and I have sales calls with, it's like a chon. It's a conversation. That's all it is. And then the pitch. Again, the way you structure your pillars and deliver them will really define if you get that person from a maybe to a definitely. Long-term nurture, so what we spoke about before, trust, authority, re-engage. There's ways, systems, automations to put in place. There's certain life cycles of certain sales cycles that you need to know you don't need to keep messaging someone after X amount of time. And once you know this stuff, it just creates like repetitive cycles and it's the flow of the business. So you get into a flow and a consistent rhythm. And when you get in this rhythm, when you're like, okay, we're doing $100 a day in profit, $1,000 a day, a few $1,000s a day, every week's $10,000 a week, there's just certain levers you pull on to really accelerate that as you go through. Now, they're the first two pillars, right? Hybrid offer and then CTS lead engine. As you can see up here, offer, lead engine. Now, this isn't just a name. There's a system and process that I've personally built with over hundreds of coaches. I've been in marketing programs. I've worked with some top level marketers. I've been in teams where people are spending like $500,000 a month on marketing and running the team and business. So I've seen what works and what doesn't in a solopreneur business very, very well. And there's a lot of things that are high level concepts with bigger businesses that just don't transition to this kind of work. At the end, optimize. So we're reviewing every single thing we do, every stage and every level we pull, we're looking at that. Customer experience. Are you getting people banger results? Because if you're not, well, what's the point of onboarding 100 people if everyone's going to want a refund and no one's going to work with you again? We need to be congruent in what the hell it is, what we're delivering and how we're facilitating that to people. Optimizing the ads and then scaling. Where do you want to take this from here? Now that we've gone through this program, we've gotten to a stage where at consistent 10K a month, 20K a month, a few $100s a day, like whatever that looks like, what do you want to do? Do you want to maintain or do you want to move forward? My overarching goal is every single person I work with, by the end of working with me, they have everything they need to be able to continue and scale moving through the program. Now, I know in the amount of time we work together, that's not always going to be true, but I've had people that have come with me, they've learned all the skills. At the end, they're like, Mikkel, awesome, that was great. I'm going to continue doing this by myself. And that's amazing. I don't want people to be dependent on me for the rest of their life for their business. That's not what I'm here to do. I want to empower and create self-led leaders in the space, and then they can go and multiply what they're doing. Now, will people work for me for years? Yes. Have people worked with me for years? Yes. And there's always going to be different types of clients out there. So if you can deeply understand who the hell it is you're speaking to and what you're building to them, you can understand yourself on a deeper layer, you can see things, see reality clearer for what it is, and know what the reality of the business is, know what you're trying to shoot for and what you're trying to avoid. You make decisions so much easier and business just becomes fun. Because one of the biggest problems I see time and time again is business owners mistake movement for progress. They're busy sending 100 DMs every single day. They're busy spending all this money on ads and creating YouTube videos and doing all the things, but they're not actually progressing the business forward. And what happens here is when you don't have clarity on what the hell it is you're doing, you're making all this movement spinning your wheels, but you get to a point where you have uncertainty in yourself, the business model, and if this actually works. Why? Well, it makes sense. You haven't got the results you feel like you were due in this time. And what happens here, the uncertainty, you can't disassociate the difference between the business and the human being you. So you start to doubt yourself. The uncertainty creeps into every area of life. You get frustrated with everything. You start looking at other people doing well in the space and you think they're a scam, they're lying, or whatever that is, right? I've been there. I've seen it happen time and time again. This stuff works, and it works really, really well. So do all the things, like, share, subscribe. This is the first time I've used the little screen share with the iPad, so I hope my handwriting was readable enough for you guys. Yeah, drop in the comments below. Like, let me know what your current struggle is with business, and I'll reply personally and everything. And I might even have some resources. I got a ton of free resources and content I could shoot your way. Just let me know what your current bottleneck or struggle is. Like I said, do all the things, like, share, subscribe, and you can check out my other videos in the top corner above. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.